Yes, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. It's my understanding you've been able to reach a verdict in this case. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, if you can give the verdict form to the bailiff.
Thank you.
All right, the court accepts the verdict if the clerk would publish the verdict.
State of Florida versus Pete Jeffry, case number 2018 CF 4670. Verdict is to count 1. We, the jury, find as follows. As to the defendant in this case, the defendant is guilty of first-degree murder as charged in the indictment. So say we all, dated this 15th day of July 2021, signed foreperson.
Ladies and gentlemen, again, thank you for your time and attention in this case. Now that the case is over with, it's up to you if you wish to speak about the case. It's also up to you if you did not wish to speak about the case. It's a right that you have completely of your own volition as far as if you wanted to do that or not. We are going to move into a sentencing phase at this time. You're welcome to leave if you wanted to leave. If any of you wanted to leave, you could grab your belongings. I could have the bailiff make certain that you can leave. If you wanted to stay, you're welcome to stay as well. So that's a right that you have. You just need to let me know, or you can let Bill know, and you could step out at this point in time. Otherwise, is there any legal reason why we shouldn't proceed with sentencing today?
No, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor, but I do believe a few members of the victim's family would like to speak.
Okay, which would be fine. Okay. All right, who did you want to?
I'm sorry, they just changed their mind and they do not wish to speak, Your Honor.
Okay. All right, so I have credit for 954 days time served. I know we have to calculate that because department, and I'm giving the benefit, that's when the bench warrant was issued in this case. I don't know the actual date of the arrest. But state want to be heard on the issue of sentencing in this?
No, Your Honor.
All right. All right, Mr. Wise, you or Mr. Jeffrey want to be heard on the issue of sentencing this?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. All right, so Mr. Jeffrey, again, if you wanted to say something, you're welcome to say something. If you don't want to say anything, you don't have to say anything. Okay. All right, we're a jury of your peers having found you guilty of the crime of murder in the first degree. The court also finds you guilty. I am adjudicating you guilty. I'm ordering that you serve a sentence of life imprisonment with the Department of Corrections. I am going to order payment of a $10,000 fine plus court cost, $100 cost of prosecution, $100 for the services of your attorney as well. I am also going to appoint counsel to represent you for purposes of that appeal in the event that you wish to appeal. And Mr. Wise, you'll prepare the appeal packet?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So did you understand the sentence here?
Yes, sir.
All right. Do you have any questions for me?
No, sir.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Swift justice down in Ocala, Florida. I mean, think about how quickly all this went from jury selection to sentence to life in prison. Unreal. Let's bring in Court TV legal correspondent Julia Janae, who joins us from Ocala, Florida. Julia, you know, we cover trials all over the country, and some of them take months, some of them take weeks, and some take a few days. And this was just a few days from picking a jury to Pete Jeffry being sentenced to life in prison.
This moved so quickly. We were here on Monday for that jury selection that only took about half a day. And then these jurors, they heard about 2.5 days worth of testimony and closing arguments. What they heard this morning, the deliberation was longer than many expected because of the overwhelming evidence it seemed that the state had in this case. But they deliberated for about 4.5 hours, only asking one question during that time and ultimately coming back with that verdict. And that sentencing, that's mandatory in Florida when there's a conviction on first-degree murder. So likely why we didn't hear much from either side, but even this family declining to give a victim impact statement.
But there was some drama afterwards. I want to take a listen to Lisa Jeffrey's daughter speaking, and Patience Burton talking. There was a little bit of drama between the defendant's girlfriend and the victim's daughters. Let's take a look at what happened here.
The police ain't where you live, honey. They can arrest me for it. She killed my mother. It is though. She's crying over a man that killed an innocent then he gets to walk through it, she gets to walk away. My mother's never gonna speak to her again because he wanted to hold war.
But your mother would not want you to go into that.
Because she wanted to care.
Not for her. She's not worth it. Okay? Take a deep breath. This is Brad Miller. He's with the Ocala.
All right, Julia, give us a little more context of what happened there. That was Patience Burton who was walking out. That was the girlfriend of the defendant who was walking out. The group of people, the victim's children, right?
Exactly. The two daughters that we saw on the stand, Paris Riley and Jamie Curl, also there with them are the aunt of the victim and her adoptive sister. So you see there, the girlfriend of the defendant is being walked out with deputies. That's because this confrontation actually started in the courtroom, and the deputies understood they needed to keep these two groups apart. When she walked out of the doors, you heard an expletive being thrown at her from the family's camp, and then it looked like she raised her finger to her face, which the family members are saying that she put her middle finger up, that she flipped them the bird, and that's when things really intensified. But this all boils down to the fact that the victim's family believes she was more involved in the murder of their mother than the law has viewed this. She was charged with making false statements to police at the beginning of this investigation. She served 16 days. But other than that, she was not called to testify. She is not charged as an accomplice or anything really connected to this murder, which we learned afterward from the victim's family. They felt she helped Pete Jeffry, that she helped clean up or conceal their mother's corpse when it was inside his camper, and that she should have been charged more harshly and not able to sit there in court this entire time supporting him, a free woman.
And she was living in the camper as well, right? Patience Burton was?
I'll say living is a strong word, Vinny. Legally, the state prosecutors were able to show the court that she was someone who had authority and could give consent to police to go in because she stayed there from time to time. We spoke to her today. She said she wasn't living there, that her residence was her mother's camper, and that's something that the defense argued in trying to throw out the discovery of the corpse because she was the one who let police in. But the state was able to show that she kept valuable belongings there, that she did have permission to go into that camper without the defendant being there. She had a key, so they were able to prove she did have some level of residency there, thus keeping that search and that consent valid, and this going forward to trial.
I also want to take a listen to Jamie Curl, the victim's daughter, speaking after today's verdict and sentencing.
In the middle of the trial, he looks back over at us, starts mouthing words. I don't know what he mouthed. He stuck his hand to the side, just like this.
He did it twice. He
and
went
was
like
flipping
this,
us off
and then went like this.
throughout the whole trial. Why? He's evil.
So what the victim's daughters are saying is that the defendant in the middle of his murder trial is flipping the bird to his ex-wife's children, the children of the victim in this case?
Vinny, how horrible does that sound? I did not notice it when I was in the courtroom, but we didn't see any kind of remorse at all, seemingly, from this defendant as he was sitting there at the table. I didn't see much emotion. You did see a lot of stress from him, rubbing his temples a lot during testimony, looking down, putting his hands over his face. I did notice him working really hard to make eye contact with Patience Burton there in the gallery. He was mouthing some things to her while he was being fingerprinted and being led away in cuffs. And it made me remember, because I couldn't make out what those words were, several times he said things. It made me remember that in court documents, he was identified as someone who was making jail calls to Burton, trying to come up with a scheme on how to get out of jail, and that they used a different language that the detectives weren't able to figure out what it was, some kind of secret language, it seemed. They didn't identify what language it was, but that they had this way of communicating that no one else could understand.
Unbelievable stuff. Julie Jennings, stand by for a second. Let's bring in our think tank. Joining us tonight in Atlanta, Georgia, criminal defense attorney, law professor at Emory University, Molly Palmer. Joining us from the Bronx, New York, criminal defense attorney Renee Hill. And in Houston, Texas, criminal defense attorney Carmen Rowe. Excuse me. Great to see everyone tonight. Let me begin with what is alleged that the defendant was doing during the course of the trial. What happens to a criminal defendant on trial for murder if he's flipping the bird to the victim's daughters during the trial and the judge sees it? What would happen, Molly Palmer, if the judge had seen this during the course of the trial?
I mean, you know, Vinny, you can admonish him, but at this point, he's been sentenced to life. So what? Are you going to bring like
Back
a
in time
contempt
here.
of...
What if he got caught? What if he got caught doing it in the middle of his own murder trial? What would happen?
I mean, I guess you could bring a contempt charge for his behavior, but when you're facing a murder trial and you get convicted and sentenced to life, I mean, it's just not much more punishment. And I think that probably goes through someone's head oftentimes when they're sitting there realizing that this is it for them, you know, might as well flip the bird. What does he have to lose, you know?
Unbelievable. Renee Hill, should I be surprised? Should I be surprised? I mean, we had overwhelming evidence here. Jury figured it out, delivered some justice today, got to the truth of it. But does this sort of confirm for us everything that we learned during the trial?
I believe it does. You know, I'm not surprised at the verdict. I was able to watch a good portion of the trial because it did go so quickly. I can't believe how quickly it went. And the evidence was very damning here. It was very bad. He was not a likable defendant at all. You know, he showed no remorse whatsoever. There was just nothing about him or nothing about the circumstances that any juror could like. And although the defense attorney made very good points during his closing argument and did give the jurors, I think, something to think about, it just wasn't enough for him to, you know, get over the hurdle here and present a reasonable doubt to the jury. So I'm not surprised at the verdict at all.
Okay, Carmen Rowe, I want you to take a listen to Winifred Burke. This is the victim's aunt, again, addressing Patience Burton. Again, Patience Burton is the girlfriend of the defendant and spent a lot of time in that camper, but what we understand also is that the victim lived in that camper. It was kind of a strange situation. They were no longer married, but shared that camper to a certain extent. Let's take a listen to Winifred Burke afterwards.
And we're glad that there was justice for Lisa today on account of Pete Jeffry. But there's still another person out there, Patience, that needs to pay for this crime.
And what was...
I still have bad feelings, we all do, that she got away with murder. She was just as guilty as Pete.
What do you think was her role in the murder?
I think she had a very big role in it, as big as Pete.
And what role was that?
She helped cover the murder up. She helped hide Pete. She helped clean up the murder scene for Lisa. And she was staying and knew Lisa was in that trailer that she was living in.
She acted like she was Lisa's best friend.
She betrayed.
So what do you think should happen to her?
She should go to prison.
She should get the same thing he got.
Why do you think that she wasn't called as a witness and challenged about her situation?
I don't know. I don't understand. There was some information we wasn't given on her part, and I can't explain it. I wish we had it, and I wish there was justice on that end for Lisa. But we have some justice for Lisa, for her husband that she did dearly love and trusted.
All right, Carmen Rowe, is it too late for investigators, if they come across some evidence or take a closer look at the evidence, to perhaps pursue something here against Patience Burton?
I don't think it's ever too late, Vinny. I mean, look, this is a case where we have a woman who was staying in a camper where we know there was a dead body for quite a while. So to believe that she had no role whatsoever is a little fantastic. And I believe in conspiracy theories. And, you know, I'm with the family. I think she played a role. To what extent, we don't know. What we do know is that there wasn't enough evidence to prosecute her at this time. But I think it's compelling that she wasn't called as a witness, which is some indication that there may be more to come for her.
All right, Julie Janae, we only have a couple seconds here. I just wanted to tie this all together and have prosecutors mentioned anything about pursuing additional charges related to this murder against Patience Burton?
No information at all that they are intending to do that. And the way they presented this case, it doesn't sound like that's something they plan to do.
All right, Julia Janae, live in Ocala tonight. Quick justice delivered. Great job as always, Julia. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Vinny.